Hello and welcome to Community of Faith Church Online podcast. I hope this message inspires you and encourages you. If you have any questions, you can email admin@cofchurches.com. Thank you and have a great day.
So tonight, I got so much content, and I just have a throw up of notes here, and I'm just trusting that it's going to work out. Okay, can we do that? Can we trust with me that it's going to work out? I want to read something to you, okay? And I'm going to ask you a question, and you're allowed to answer me. I'm going to read a mission statement to you. Let every student be plainly instructed and earnestly pressed to consider well the end of his life and studies is to know God and Jesus Christ, which is eternal life, and therefore to lay Christ in the bottom as the only foundation of all sound knowledge and learning. That's a mission statement. Ryan Garber, whose mission statement is that? Penny? No? Don Bradley, do you know the mission statement? Does anybody know whose mission statement that is that doesn't know me close? Deidre, you know? Todd? Van Coolen? That's the original mission statement for Harvard University. So, I'm not sure if it's the same today. That's a joke. You can laugh. So they were drifting from their mission. So a bunch of teachers got together and they said, this school was founded for something else. We're not going to stand for this. And so they had a group of teachers that went and started another college dedicated to that mission. And that university is called Yale. Mission drift. Like tonight, I want to talk about like our church just for a little bit. So if you're new tonight and you're trying to figure out who we are as a church, I'm going to try to give you the best definitions. I'm going to try to give you the best explanations I can of who we are as a church, what our purpose is, what our mission is, what we're going after. See, there's a difference between a mission and a vision. I have a vision where I see that one day there is a life-giving church or multiple life-giving churches in every community in the world. Like that's a vision that I had. Now, we have a part to play in that. But mission is a little bit different. Mission is kind of like, what are we going to do to actually do it? What mission do we play in fulfilling that vision, that long-term vision? So if we're not careful, though, mission drift happens. If we're not careful, we lose track of what we're actually supposed to be doing. And things get cloudy and things get confusing. As a church, we begin to change some of our belief systems because of pressure. Sometimes financial pressure comes in and church changes how they do things because they need a capital campaign. And I want to be very careful that we don't mission drift. Paul had a mission. Paul is dedicated to the mission. Colossians chapter 1 and verse 28 and 29 says this. It says, there we go. Him we preach, warning every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that we may present every man perfect in Christ Jesus. To this end I also labor, striving according to his working which works in me mightily. Like I read Paul's mission, I think that's a good mission. Like his life mission was to make sure that people knew Jesus, that he taught them and he grew them up. And here's what I know, as we go about the mission that God has given us, it's hard at times. As we go about the mission that God has given us, where there's opposition at times. Not everything always works out. I'm so frustrated right now about one detail. And it's almost like I'm not trusting God with it. And I even found myself today going, God, why aren't you working this out? This one little point that's never been a hindrance, it's never been a frustration. I was like, God, why aren't you working this one thing out? Like it's very easy to get distracted in a mission. It's very easy to experience a little drifting of the mission. But I love when Paul was needing some encouragement. We see it in Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18 and verse 9, it says this. It says, one night the Lord spoke to Paul in a vision, and it said, do not be afraid. Keep preaching. Do not be silent. Like there are times that we're going to feel like, are we doing the right thing? Are we going in the right direction? We have so much opposition happening here, and I feel like the Lord just shows up and confirms that, hey, keep pressing forward. Don't let these roadblocks get in your way. The mission that I have given you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. It is something you're going to have to work for, but don't be afraid. Keep pushing, keep going after it. And so the mission that God has given us it's ours. Like, it doesn't have to be anybody else's. It's what God's called us to do. And it involves the Great Commission. And I want to read it specifically because over the years, we've kind of tweaked it. We've kind of pushed towards it. And it's this. The mission that God has given us is equipping people to go and be the church. Like, at the end of the day, we want to equip people to go be the church. Everybody's focused on James. What are we doing, James? You're fixing the camera because you're only picking up the back of the stage. You don't have to fix the camera, James. Is this my good side, y'all? I don't know that I have a good side. Let me just tell you this. I'm gonna digress for a minute since James rudely interrupted me. I had to record 2 offerings yesterday, and there's this mirror that we have before you got on stage. And so I just glanced in the mirror. You know, you want to be sure there's nothing going on, like up here, eye boogies. And I looked in the mirror real quick, and I just stopped, and I looked, and I was like, God. I mean, my hair's thinner than it was. And I looked underneath my eyes, and I have wrinkles. And I just thought to myself for a minute, I was like, you look kind of old. Like, and then Haley is telling me tonight in the basement, she's like, yeah, I remember coming here when I was in like the 1st grade. I was like, oh my God, like, I am old. But then I looked at it and like, these wrinkles have come at a price. Like, I ain't giving them back. And I was down with Seth and Haley, and I was like, I've been through everything you have to go through. We've had those kids. Our marriage has been a wreck. I've cried nights over this church. Like, I just look, and then I got excited. I was like, this is like my war paint. Like, these are my scars. Like, I'm thankful that I got these, and I've earned these wrinkles, and I'm gonna wear them proud. Ain't no Botox coming toward me. I ain't gonna try to lie it or cheat it. I'm proud of my wrinkles. Not gonna talk about Botox for just a minute. I'm not gonna do it. I offended like 3 people. I love those wrinkles. You earned them. So here's what happens. Okay, I'm gonna focus back in. James, are we done? Are we good? Are you gonna stay there the whole time and mess with the camera? I just wanna know. Okay. James is literally the smartest person I know. That's not a joke. So our mission, equipping people to go be the church. Simple. What I've seen is, and a lot of this got tweaked coming through when we were shut down and COVID. And I simply saw that we depend on the church for so much. We do programs and we do plans to get people to come in. We do programs and we do plans to grow people spiritually. And really, God gave the church a responsibility to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And I have found that we haven't done the best job in the world at equipping people to actually go. We've equipped you well to bring people here, but that's not our mission. Our mission is for you to go out. Like, for you to go out, for you to disciple someone and help grow them and mature them spiritually, where you say, hey, come follow me, kind of like Jesus did. You bring people along in your life. So our mission is to equip people. Now, there's certain ways we do that. There's 3 main things that we want to do. One is this: we want to help people discover who God is. We want to help people grow in that relationship. But then this third one, man, this is where I live. Okay, I believe this. I look around our church. We have some amazing people. And I see people that are leading connect groups and small groups. And I see people who are helping people grow. And they're helping people know how to share who Jesus is. And they're helping people discover that relationship. And they're helping people mature in who God is. And as I look around, I see pockets of people who meet together. And they do Bible studies together. And I love that. From where I sit, there's one thing I look at all the time. And it's launching. It's launching. Now, launching is twofold for us. Launching is people. If you get comfortable with a person around here, watch out because they might go away. I want to send people out. I want to send missionaries all over the globe, right out of Lewisburg and Arcanum and Richmond and Eaton. Like, I want to send missionaries all over the place. I want to send people out. I want interns to come in, and I want them helping another church next door maybe. We're going to launch them out to another community, to another town, to another state, to another country. Irrelevant to me, we're going to launch people out. But one thing that we're not going to lose focus on is we will launch churches. Like, this is what we are called to do. I believe that one of the most effective ways to equip people is to continue to launch churches. We're going to launch into communities. And here's what I found. I started reading through some church history. Like, if you haven't brushed up on your church history in a while, I want to read some names, and I want you to tell me if they stand out to you. Burton Stone. Anybody? If you know the name, I just want you to raise your hand. Horace Bushnell. What do you do? What's he significant for? Without him, we never had Sunday schools. Like, he started Sunday school. He said, we need to do something to teach the young people. Like, that dude, yes, they are binoculars, but different ones. Really? Misplaced comment. Winner. Bushnell, I was hunting last week. Like, I get it, we live in Preble County. Like, he started Sunday school. I'm so thankful that somebody along the way said, we need something for the kids. I guarantee it because it was a frustrated pastor with kids in the sanctuary. Hey, Horace, do something with these kids. Like, we have Sunday school because of this guy. George Whitefield, I'm sure some of you have heard of him. John Wesley. Sadly, we're one generation away of forgetting who Billy Graham is. Like, there's young people I ask about Billy Graham, and they're like, who? Is he a senator? Like, no. Like, we soon forget what's happening. We forget what we're called to do. Here's what I know about mission, that if you're not anchored to the mission, you'll begin to drift naturally. We have to be anchored to the mission. It's equipping people, but it's also launching out. We're going to go out into these communities. And the reason I wanted to bring up those forgotten heroes in the faith is because the places we're called to are those forgotten places. Those forgotten places that are really difficult to find on a map, but I believe that God knows right where they're at. It's those forgotten places that people have abandoned, but God still remembers. Like, this is where we're called to be. I love when people ask me, Lewisburg? Now, where's that at? It's in Lewisburg. It's in Preble County. Now, is that close to Cleveland? Nope. Chillicothe, like, people have no idea. But God knew all about Lewisburg. Like, God sees Eaton. God sees Arcanum. God sees Richmond. God sees Greenville. God sees West Milton. God sees Brookville. Like, when I begin to see this, I keep my mind focused. I keep my heart focused on what he's called us to do, because I believe that there are so many places that people have forgotten that God has not. I believe that there's so many buildings in these small communities that have been abandoned, and God is calling them back to be his house of worship. Where somebody as a kid went in there to buy their jeans and to buy their candy, and now we're doing worship in there on a Sunday morning at the Big Smith building. I don't know about you, but that blesses me. Like, that's what we look for. And we're called to launch in these communities that have been abandoned and that have been forgotten. God hasn't forgot. God is well aware of what he's doing. God is well aware of what's happening. I believe this, that there's some things that we've just forgotten. We drift. Some of us have never lived in a time of revival. If I was to ask most of us in here, what is that? I don't know that we could give a great answer toward it. But in short, it's a time when groups and droves of people run to a relationship with Jesus. Like, I don't believe that revival is in the past. I really believe it's in the present. I believe that he's doing something in rural America that nobody even actually understands. That people think these communities are dried up and dead, and really they're just about to bring forth life like we've never seen before. Like, this is what God's wanting to do, and I believe it wholeheartedly. I want to read Isaiah for a minute. Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 3. It says this. It says, "For I will pour water on the thirsty land and streams on the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit on your offspring and my blessing on your descendants." I believe that what people once thought was a dry ground in these small communities, that God's gonna bring his streams of living water. And I believe that salvation is gonna spring up. And I believe that deliverance is gonna spring up. And I believe that hope is gonna spring up again. And I believe that healing is gonna spring up again. And I believe that people are gonna be set free from things that they have been holding them back forever. I just believe that this is what God is trying to do in these rural communities. I don't care if anybody knows who we are. I care about what God wants to do in us and through us. I care about what he's trying to accomplish. And I think it's so much bigger than what I ever initially thought. I remember the day that God called and I was cutting dough at a pizza place. I was in the back about 6:30 in the morning. And I was cutting pizza dough, and all of a sudden, I just felt this urge. I want you to go plant a church in Preble County. And I had no clue why. I had no understanding as to why. But it wasn't okay. Like, it wasn't enough that God had just called us. He actually wanted us to do something. He actually had in mind people. You see, I didn't realize that he had Ryan Garber's face out there. If he would have showed me Ryan Garber's face, I would have ran here quicker. Him and Andrea are the prettiest couple I've ever seen. Like, I didn't know he had the Hapners in mind, that we'd deliver a candle to their house one day and then they would be with me forever. Like, I had no idea that they'd be here with me this long. I had no idea that God would bring Gabe here as an intern from Oklahoma. Who is this kid? I don't even know him. And he shows up to be an intern. But here's what God does. God calls you to a place, but he sees the people. Like, everybody has a face. And so when we go to these communities, when we go to these places, man, I put a face to who they are. Every community has a Lebo. Every community has the Myers. But when God starts putting a face to it and we start to see it, it starts to make sense. So when I drive through these towns and I talk about rural communities, it's not just the communities I'm talking about, it's the people who live there. Their significance and their importance. Like, I remember the first time I went to the Van Coolen's house. And when he bought the place, he got on his knees and he said, "God, use it for your glory." Like, God saw him years before he called us to be in Arcanum. Dave Furlong and I were at a fundraiser together in Lima, Ohio. And God put us at a table together because he saw Dave long before he saw this church. He gave Dave purpose. Listen, these communities aren't just towns. They're the people in them. And they're so significant and they're so important. And God's put so much value on them. I want to read it first. Verse 12. I want to read a verse in Colossians chapter 3. Verse 12. It says, therefore, as God's chosen people. Sometimes I just stop there and I'm like, really? Do you ever stop? Like, I'm his chosen? Like, that's a big pill to swallow. Therefore, as God's chosen people, I just want to stop there. Thank you. Like, God, you chose me? Why? I didn't earn it. I couldn't deserve it. But that's who we are. Therefore, as God's chosen people, it's talking directly to us, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. When we go into these communities, this is what we're doing. We're not going for us to start a church. We're going to go clothing ourselves in gentleness, in humility, in goodness, in patience. We're going to be something to those towns. We are going to offer something. Why? Because that's what we have. We're God's chosen, beloved by him. So we're going to treat people and we're going to go into these towns and love them. And we're going to help them and we're going to help other churches. Because it's not just about community of faith. It's building his kingdom and doing what he's called us to do and helping everybody else along the way. Like, I don't want to drift from this. The reason I'm here talking about this is because I don't want to drift from it. But at the same time, I got to be honest. Like, can I just be really blunt for a minute? I'm not apologizing anymore for going after what God called us to do. Like, I know what he's put on the inside of our heart. And we're going to go after it. Like, this is a season like I've never saw before. I see people drawing back and we're going to start pushing in. Like, I don't know what 2021 is going to be like. I know there'll be another campus off the ground. I know there'll be more people coming in so that we can equip them to go out. But what if there's 2 this year? Like, I'm done apologizing. Like, I'm done thinking that God's little. And we're going to believe that God is big. And if he wants to launch 2, 3, or 4, I believe that he's going to provide, that he's going to make the way, that he's going to raise the people up, that he's going to open the doors because he's big enough to actually do that. Like, I'm done thinking that he's small, and I'm done thinking that he doesn't want to do something great. Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 1 says this. It says, the wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as lions. Man, I'm tired of being anything but a lion. Like, this is who we are. We are God's chosen people. He has put a calling, he has put a mission on the inside of this church. And this year and every year going after it, we're going after it. As long as I stand in the seat that I stand in, we're not stopping. We're going to launch more churches. We're going to reach more people. We're going to help more families. And there's not one hurdle that's going to get in our way that's going to hold us back. Because we're either going to climb over it or we're going to kick through it. But we're going to be as bold as lions. Because the mission that God has given us, it's ours. Everybody's running away from small towns. We're running in. Everybody's asking me, when are you going to the big city? I'm not. We're going to where God's called us to be. And we're going to equip people. And we're going to raise them up. Like, I really believe if the Bible is true, there's going to be an end time harvest. And I don't want to be on the outside looking in. I'm telling you, church, I don't have time to waste anymore. Like, I was reading, and Paul was convinced that Jesus was coming back soon. I'm much more convinced now that Jesus is coming back. I don't know when. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, but I'm going to act like it's tomorrow. So I'm going to do all I can today. Like, we as a church, I just want you to get bold with me. so that you know what we're giving to. You know what we're serving for. You know the pain that we're going through when we set up and tear down a campus every week. That you know the pain it takes when I ask you to give me 6 months to drive to Richmond, which you can sign up for that today at the coffee shop. Like, I know what I'm asking you to do, and I'm not apologizing for it because we get to be a part of this mission that God called us to be. We're not going back. We're not going to be afraid. We're moving forward. Thy kingdom come, his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So thankful that God has called us. This last verse I want to read in 1 Chronicles. It says, David also said to Solomon, his son, be strong and courageous and do the work. Don't be afraid or discouraged. For the Lord God, my God, is with you. He will not fail you or forsake you until all the work for the service of the temple of the Lord is finished. You know why we can do this? Because he's going to be with us till it's done. And I don't see an end in sight. Maybe we launch a campus and I know on the inside, hey, that one's done. Hey, we're done. We're going to go with 10 campuses, 3 campuses, 5, I don't know. But whatever it is, like, I believe that he's going to be with us every step of the way. Like, when we need strength, he's going to provide strength. When we need 10 more worship leaders, people ask me all the time, how do you have so many worship leaders? I don't know, but we need 10 more. And then they just shake their head. Where do you find these pastors? I don't know. I really can't answer it. How do you have young people? I don't know. They won't stop coming. Like, and we love them, but we don't even understand them or how they dress, but they're amazing. Like, we're so thankful we have them. But we're going after it. Like, he's going to provide. He's going to bring the workers. He's going to bring the resources. And I'm not afraid one bit. So I don't know about you, church, but like, this is what you're a part of. This is what we're doing. And I'll be honest, if you say, hey, listen, that's too much. Like, I don't know if that's for me. It's okay. Like, find a church that lines up with what you need to do, with what you want to do. But this is where we're going. And we're going after it with boldness. We're going after it like lions. And he's going to be with us every step of the way.
Again, thank you for joining us here at Community of Faith Church Online Podcast. If you have any questions at all, again, email admin@cofchurches.com. If you're new with us today and looking for the next step, go to cofchurches.com/getconnected. And finally, if you feel led to give, go to cofchurches.com/give or click the give button on the COF app. Thank you and have a wonderful day.